Hey guys, it's Tony with Backwoods Biker Magazine and Wood Tramp Outdoors. We dropped that video on the SilverFire Hunter chimney stove and the SilverFire rocket stove for all the folks down there in Texas. And after we dropped that, we were bombarded with emails, and I picked out a few of those to be able to address here for you folks. All of them were important, but these ones really hit the wheelhouse. So hang tight and I'll be right back. Appreciate you hanging tough and sending these emails, and I'm hoping things are getting better for you down there in Texas. I know it's been bad. So just let me get right to this here. There are, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like maybe 6 emails that I wanted to read to you here and answer the question. This one comes from Charlotte. She's in Houston, Texas. It says, thanks for the video on the SilverFire stoves. My husband wants me to ask if they were well insulated. Thank you. And the question is about the insulation. And, you know, I'm going to make sure that I throw up a picture of the SilverFire Survivor rocket stove. In that picture, you're going to see up there that on the left side is a competitor's insulation, which is pretty common. And that particular kind of insulation is a very porous and fragile. You drop the stove, you bump the stove, you know, or just use, it's going to crack and break. But what SilverFire uses is what's called a rock mineral. Very, very efficient. It's quite expensive, but you know, I'm sure that Todd felt like it was worth the expense. And as an end user, I can tell you that is the most efficient rocket stove that we've ever seen, and I believe the same insulation is used in the Hunter chimney stove. You can't get any better insulation than that. And as I said, you know, you can touch that rocket stove when it is roaring on the sides, and you know, you're not going to leave your hands there forever. But you know, as the initial combustion happens, it releases the gases, and then the secondary burn, the gasification, ignites again. Okay, that's what makes it so efficient, being a gasifier. But right at the top where the flames are coming out, around that rim, you know, I've touched that before, and yeah, it does get hot there, but they are insulated very, very well. Matter of fact, I didn't mention it, but along the bottom of the Survivor is a 360-degree ventilation where your fresh air goes up through there, and it is so well insulated and put together, you can actually put that on top of a picnic table and it will not burn. Now the Hunter, you can't do that with, because it does get very hot, and I've never burned anything, you know, because I've been mindful of it. You know, Todd told me that it'd be a bad idea to do that. So the insulation is a rock mineral, and they are very well insulated. That makes it super efficient. That's part of the secret sauce. All right, the next one comes from Dylan in Kyle, Texas. I've never been to Kyle. He said, if you had to choose just one of the SilverFire stoves, which would it be? I really can't afford both right now. Well, if it was me, I would choose the Hunter chimney stove, and the reason is because it gives you a little bit more versatility than what the Survivor does. The Survivor was designed for very fast boiling of water. Todd has, you know, he's a humanitarian at heart for sure. You know, what I've learned about him, you know, over the last 5 years that we've been dealing with each other. He sent these stoves down to Puerto Rico in different areas of the world that they were in a disaster situation, and they have been used mostly for boiling water, because you get into a situation like you're in right now down there in Texas, you know, you're having a tough time boiling water. That's what the Survivor was all designed about, you know. Todd is very open. He's not the one that invented the rocket stove, but he did take them to another level. And as far as we're concerned, you know, and a lot of people out there, they say the same thing. It's the best rocket stove out on the market. It's very efficient, and it burns very, very hot and boils water quickly, especially if you use the dragon pot because of the double wall, where it catches that secondary burn coming up, and I mean, you just got heat all around that pot. Why I would choose the Hunter is because the Hunter gives you the ability to slow down everything and cook like stews, chilies. You can cook fine pieces of meat in that Hunter, like a roast with potatoes and carrots and onions and things like that. Especially if you use that plate, that cast iron plate that I showed you. Now that is an option. It doesn't come with the stove unless you ask for that. And I recommend that you do get that plate because it provides a very nice mass there for the heat to collect in, and it just dissipates very evenly. But if you take that lid off of there, that plate off of there, you can boil water. It's not going to boil it as efficiently and quickly as the Survivor does. But if you will use the Dragon Pot, it will fit on there. You can boil water pretty fast. So you can also boil water, and you can also put meals on there that will cook all day long if you want to. The more fuel you put down in there, the embers burn. They burn for hours, and it will cook for hours for you. So I would say the Hunter. Now, I would just mention this to you also, and I'm gonna talk to you about this stove right here. This is the mini Dragon Pot for 2. It's a kit, and I'll show this to you. But the reason I mention that is, if you can only afford the Hunter, this one is a lot more reasonable in regards to price. The volume isn't there. You're not going to be able to boil as much water, but it will boil water quick. And I will show this to you here. So I would say take a look at the mini Dragon Pot for 2. It's a great ad that you could use. All right, the third one here. I got a couple of those. All right, here's one. Red Dog from Austin, Texas says, "Thanks for the video on the SilverFire stoves. What fuel do you recommend?" Well, all the Todd stoves are designed to use biofuel. Remember, he's talking about self-sufficiency. He has got efficiency at the top of the list. And nothing is more efficient than being able to walk out to your yard and to pick up twigs. You're down there in these Texas storms, you got lines down, you got trees down. You can go out and you can break up these twigs. You can burn twigs in there, out in the field. When I've been out on a scout or hunting or fishing or whatever, we've got a lot of cow pastures around us here, and you can actually burn dried cow dung in these stoves, and it's very, very efficient. The key is to all the fuel that you burn in either the Hunter or the Survivor or these smaller stoves is that your biofuel is dry. That is the main thing. I've used pine cones, I've used all kinds of wood. Now, I'll be honest with you, I haven't always been able to get dry wood when I wanted to use a stove. So, it doesn't burn quite as efficient when you've got that kind of wood that's not real dry. And it will, blacken your pot, obviously, because of the emissions. All right? So, any biofuel, I just throw this out to you. You cannot use anything that has a petroleum in it. You don't want to burn the survival candles in it. You don't want to do that. It's not designed for that. It's designed for being able to burn on the cheap and to be very, very efficient. So it's a great question, Red Dog, and I hope that helps you out. Just all you do is go out in your yard and grab sticks, and or if you've got a garage where you got some pieces of wood laying around, if you'll process them down to the right size, they'll work perfectly for you. Okay, so we're going to get on to the next question. Actually, these are kind of related here. The first one comes from Patty from Houston, Texas. It says, "My husband and I have been subscribers for 5 years. Thank you. We truly enjoy both your YouTube channel and the magazine. We are currently considering buying the SilverFire Tent Dragon for our den. I remember the video on the titanium stove, but was wondering if you could give us some info on the Tent Dragon." All right, and she signs it Bill and Patty freezing in Houston. Okay, give me a second there, Bill and Patty, and I'll tie you in with this guy right here. His name's Jacob, and he's also from Houston. Maybe you guys know each other, I don't know. He says, thanks for helping me make my decision on what brand of stoves I need for disasters like we're having right now. Still no power in our part of Houston. One stove you didn't mention was the Tent Dragon. It looks like a piece of survival gear that I need more info on. There are some videos on YouTube, but I've learned to trust what you say. Any advice will be helpful. Thanks, Jacob B. And then he's got a postscript down here. How does it compare to the titanium stoves I see other survival instructors using? Okay, so first of all, let me get to the end of that. Now, these two are asking me the same thing, basically, except Jacob mentions the titanium stoves that he has seen us review and use out in the field. And I'll be honest with you, they do not compare in any way, shape, or form to Todd's Tent Dragon stove. I really can't recommend any of the titanium stoves for long-term sustainability or survivability because they are not designed that way. All the titanium stoves that you see out there have been designed for lightweight weekends or maybe a week or something like that. I've gotten, passed on all the titanium tent stoves that we reviewed, and I've kept one. And the only reason I kept the one is because, it is lightweight, and I can throw it in my backpack and take it out with a teepee and heat it up when I'm out deer hunting or just hunting out or tramping out, camping during the wintertime. They're not very efficient at all. And you have to load them all night long. Yes, they are light and they're kind of tough. But the one that I have, which is probably 3 or 4 years old, is getting a little long in the tooth. And I was just mentioning this to some other guys here recently that, I have a feeling that one of these days I'm going to be out there and it's just going to fail on me. Parts of it have already failed. I think the damper has just burnt out completely. And when you talk about being compared to the Tent Dragon, and I'll go ahead and put up a picture of Todd's Tent Dragon. They're just his everything that he does is tank tough. That's what impressed us from the beginning. And I'll show you the little stove that we first saw from him that put him on our radar. They don't compare. I mean, his is made out of heavy-duty stainless, and it's not just for heating. You can bake in it. You can cook food on the top of it, with a skillet, with a griddle, with a wok. There's all kinds of things that you can do with his tent stove, and it will heat even small rooms, medium-sized rooms in a house. So for Patty and Bill, it would work in your den. But as far as me being able to tell you firsthand about this, only thing I can say, I've never seen it in person. We have never hooked up with Todd on that for a project. We're hoping that we'll be able to do that, especially now with this going on. But even though that I haven't seen that particular stove, I've seen at least 4 of his stoves, and everything about his work is impeccable. I've mentioned this a lot of times, and it's important that you understand. Todd is a former frogman. Frogmen are like astronauts, okay? They are taught to think way beyond the box. When they look through the eye of the needle, they see the entire horizon. It's just like a professional survivalist. I mean, you've got to be able to think out of the box. You've heard the old adage, and it's not old, we're still using this, adapt, improvise, and overcome. That's the mindset of men like Todd Albee. And all of his designs have been well thought out. He uses the finest materials out there, and he evolves his products. A lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll put together a design of a stove or whatever it is. I don't care what it is. And they'll run with that until the wheels fall off. And what I've learned about Todd Albee is that when he designs something, if it doesn't really trip his trigger a year from now, he's changing. He's changing up. The Tent Dragon that he has now is stainless. The one before that was not. It was made out of steel. But But you know, I would recommend that to you. You know, especially if you're trying to heat a medium-sized room, you're going to vent it out. You know, it will heat that room. There's no doubt about that. Everything that Todd has told me about that stove is impressive. You know, so I would not hesitate. But the one thing that I would tell you, especially Jacob, don't go out and try to buy a titanium stove just because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing it, and all these ultralight backpackers are just giving it these great reviews. You'll be disappointed. It's not for long-term sustainability. Todd's Tent Dragon would do that for you. You take care of it, it's going to take care of you. Now, I did want to show this to you here because this was, I think, you know, this is called the mini dragon pot for two. It's a smaller version of the big dragon pot that I showed you. And just like the big dragon pot, you know, when you look at this, it's got that double wall, and that's where the secondary flames get up in there when it's gasifying. And this will boil water very, very quickly. Now, this is the stove that we first seen, was this little guy right here. And this is a jewel. It fits in the palm of my hand. And a couple guys that were deployed at the time, who happened to be subscribers of the magazine, wrote me and said, hey, look, all the stoves you're doing, why don't you do one from SilverFire? It's called the Scout. So this is it, all right? And it's very, very simple. It's got this bottom portion, and you see these flames. That is Todd's trademark. A lot of people have tried to knock these off, but they don't have the flames. That's something you need to understand. And then this is the top portion that goes right here, and then here is your burner plate right here. Okay, this has got a lot of great features in it. You know, it catches the ash in the bottom so it doesn't get on the forest floor. I've burned these many times in the fall when everything's crispy and crunchy, you know, in the heat of summer. Haven't had any problems with fire at all. But they're very, very tiny. And this isn't the SilverFire Scout, but this is the small Scout stove, okay? I think that the MSR, it comes with an MSR pot. Maybe that's the kit. I can't remember real well. But this is the guy that got us started with SilverFire. And I thought, man, if that guy can make something like this, and it's this stinking tough, you know, he's got some corn in the crib. You know, and when you look at this, the way that this is put together, I mean, it's wonderful, you know. And as I said, that's all it does, is it fits down like that and upside down. Now, if you want to know more information about this, why he calls it the Dragon Pot for two, it comes with a ferro rod and a magnesium rod attached to it, and it's got a wooden handle that I've used this before to get me some tinder going here. I'm not going to start a fire in here. Last time I did it, about burned the studio down, so I've been told I can't do that anymore. But it comes with a true stainless steel foldable spoon and fork, and it comes with 2 sets. All right, and I have fed 5 guys out of this, and it was fine. You know, I boiled a lot of water in this, you know, coffee, tea, hot cocoa, whatever, you know. But it's a great option if you're looking for a way to be able to offset. Buy that Hunter. If you're going to buy one stove, go for the Hunter. And, you know, if you can afford that, I would recommend that. If you can really afford the SilverFire Survivor rocket stove, you know, now you got an entire survival kitchen when you got those 2 pieces. So I hope that helped you out, and I appreciate all the emails. And again, if I didn't get to yours, and you know, if we haven't answered it, we'll try to. We're trying to answer all those emails because I know it's important to you in this terrible situation that you're in right now. So listen, I want to tell you thank you for watching this video, and for all your support that you give us and all the kind words, reading the magazine. And until next time, you guys ride free, you live free, and as always, you be safe out there and hang tough down there, Texas. That's what you Texans do. We'll see you.